All right, Jason Timpf is with us, host of Hoops Tonight, the Volume Sports. Summer League, of course, and we were actually just talking about this off the air. So this is one of the first times I've been out here. This is like, so growing up in Las Vegas, this is like the hub now the last few years, right? NBA descends upon Sin City for a while. How do you like it out here? How do you like wandering around and whatnot?
It's a really cool experience. I've always been a gigantic basketball fan, and I've always wanted to come. And it's been really cool seeing the Summer League grow into what it's become. But to actually get out here and see it in person has been an experience. Obviously, the basketball is incredible, and things started off hot yesterday with that matchup. But then it was also cool just to get to meet so many people in the industry, so many people that I've talked to and gotten to know over the years on Twitter and stuff. To get to meet them in person is great. All in all, it's been a really great experience, but we're only one night in. I can't wait to see what else we see over the next couple of days.
Yeah, we got 10 days. So let's start with last night, and then we'll get to the big picture stuff in the offseason. First off, just your takeaway, we see Paolo take on Jabari Smith. Quiet night for Jabari. Gets a little bit more comfortable in the second half. Paolo looks NBA ready. What were your takeaway from the first matchup we saw last night?
You don't necessarily learn anything about either player, but it does confirm things that we knew. Like, this was never going to be the setting for Jabari to just walk in and start killing, because right now in his development, he's not a great ball handler, and he projects to one day be a lot of those things, but in this setting, he was never going to walk in and have success or feel comfortable getting to his spots. And remember, everybody on that court is scratching and clawing for a spot in the NBA. Right. So in terms of desperation in basketball, that's about as high a level as you'll find outside of the NBA playoffs, right? And so for him struggling to dribble in that setting, you always knew he was going to struggle a little bit. But you could tell in the second half when he started to make some shots, the weight of the world came off his shoulders and he felt better.
And Paolo, too. I mean, like, the one thing when I was talking about him when we were coming through the draft, which was like NBA-ready body. Like, he looks like out of all these guys, like, put him on a basketball court, and if you didn't tell you that he was a rookie, you'd be like, yeah, that's an NBA player. And he looked like it yesterday. I mean, he was hitting shots. He's hitting side steps. He's looking really comfortable with everything. So I was, as much as you can be for a Summer League game, was impressed watching Paolo last night.
Yeah, and, he's not a great ball handler either at this point, but he's so big and he's so comfortable turning his back to the basket that when people cut him off, he can quick audible into a post-up. And then he's got all the moves going over either shoulder, the fadeaways, the hook shots. His overall comfortability getting to his spots was readily apparent. And then, obviously, his passing. With his size and his ability to see over the defense and his ability to see cutters and things like that, it's just a really, really impressive first showing from him.
So, offseason, well, we're going to get to the big topics, but you're a Lakers guy. So I want to start with the Los Angeles Lakers because they're at the center of one of the big topics, which is Kyrie Irving and him. It seems destined that it is the Lakers, right? They have the potential contract that would kind of match, and you can do all the pieces. They have the 2 first-round picks. Maybe it's one, maybe it's both, whatever it is. So your thoughts now as the Lakers are looking at staring right in the eye of reuniting Kyrie Irving and LeBron James. First off, what do you think takes it to get done? Are they going to ship off both first-round picks? Is it just one? What do you think this deal is going to look like here if it happens?
So there's a combination of things happening. I think the Nets know they can get a first-round pick from the Lakers, and so they're right now, because they know that offer's there, they're going out looking for more and trying to use that to leverage the Lakers into maybe giving that second first-round pick. I've also heard that there's a little bit of an internal dispute over whether or not they should go after Kyrie or they should go after Miles Turner and Buddy Hield. And to be honest, when I saw that, I had to pause for a second,
right?
Because I'm not entirely sure which way I would go, but I lean slightly towards Kyrie because I think you can manufacture the Miles Turner, Buddy Hield stuff with other lower-level players. There's nothing you can do to replicate what Kyrie Irving can do on a basketball court, especially in a playoff setting. He's a very unique talent in that sense, so I think I'd go the Kyrie route, and I do believe that ends up getting done.
So let me ask you this, though, because one of the things that I've been talking about with Kyrie, which is at this point right now, one of the things that you have to take into account is he going to be there? Like, is he going to be there and playing games with whatever reason it is, whether it's what happened last year, he's just kind of Fickle has a negative, like continuity to it. But you know what I'm talking about is, will he be there for a majority of these games? 2 out of the 3 years he plays, 26 games or fewer for the Brooklyn Nets? What's the trust that this kind of rights the ship a little bit here, and you're going to get, I'd even say 55-plus games from Kyrie next year?
Here's the deal. You don't know.
Yeah.
You just absolutely have no idea whether or not he's going to be available. But the Lakers do not have the luxury of turning away talent.
Yeah.
I was joking with some people last night. How many NBA starter level players are currently under contract for the Lakers? I say 2, LeBron James and Anthony Davis.
The Laker fans I talk to would throw Taylor Horton-Tucker into that mix.
Yeah, and I would vehemently disagree. So my point is the Lakers are a unique match for Kyrie because they're desperate and they do not have the luxury to turn away talent. And again, all you can hope is that the overwhelming public pressure combined with LeBron James and his ability to manage personalities will be enough to bring the best out of Kyrie. But again, you have to acknowledge the reality that it's a risk. The best indicator of future performance is past performance, and Kyrie has shown us he's unreliable. So if he ends up being unreliable, that just means that came true, which is to be expected.
So let's say they get Kyrie Irving. Where do you put the Los Angeles Lakers in the Western Conference overall?
That's tough. My gut says third. I'd put him behind Golden State and the Clippers.
Yeah.
I think the Clippers are the biggest team that can threaten Golden State this year. Golden State letting Otto Porter and Gary Payton go as well, I thought was a mistake. Obviously, money was a huge part of that, but you're making yourself weak on the margins with two players that were very important to them there. So the Lakers get into that mix, and they certainly have a puncher's chance, but they just don't have enough NBA-level talent, the rest of the roster around LeBron, Kyrie, and AD to be like a surefire top-tier contender, if that makes sense.
Right, no, it does. And I think one of the things I think you like, too, is they went in a little different direction in the offseason, right? When you're talking about Juan Toscano Anderson, Troy Brown Jr., Damian Jones, like you go more athletic, you go a little bit younger. Your depth, I think, kind of feels a little bit better, don't you think, as you move into the regular season? I
do like that vibe. You know, they ditched they've got more defensive-minded players now. You can actually look down the roster and see Troy Brown Jr., Juan Toscano Anderson, Stanley Johnson, Austin Reeves. These are all defensive-minded players, and I think that'll go a long way to fixing some of the psychological issues that last year's team had. And the one thing that worries me is they're very young.
Yeah.
And I wonder how much LeBron in year 20
will have patience for it.
Yeah, because again, the entire roster now, Kyrie would be their second old. Like Kyrie is 30, I believe, and he would be his oldest teammate.
Yeah.
So a roster full of guys in their 20s, Kyrie and LeBron, seems like a really interesting mix of personalities.
So what about the change at the top then? A lot of. I thought that Frank Vogel got a little bit of unfair flack for everything that went down. I mean, I thought he did a brilliant job with that team defensively, especially the year they won the title. Darvin Ham comes in. What do you expect in terms of a change there?
I loved the Darvin Ham signing. And, obviously there's some X's and O's stuff that I won't get into that is a seamless transition from what they were doing in Milwaukee. But the thing that I like the most about it is LeBron and AD need a coach that resonates with them. And Darvin Ham kind of represents this new iteration of head coaches where it's like former NBA player, but recently role player tough guy, like the kind of guy that kind of has like a big personality that can actually look these guys in the face and get them to buy in. You're seeing that with Jason Kidd. You're seeing that with Ime Udoka. You're seeing that with Ty Lue. Like that archetype of coach is starting to have a lot of success in the NBA right now. I thought it was the right move, and I'm really, really excited to see what Darvin.
Two moves, Minnesota, Atlanta. Which one did you like more and why?
Oh, man. I don't love either of
them.
I think I'd lean slightly towards Gobert because in theory they still have enough perimeter defensive talent to have a functional defense. I'm worried about their depth now, but in theory, in a playoff setting, if Karl Towns is comfortable operating on the perimeter enough, and as long as Rudy Gobert doesn't completely butcher them on offense, I could see their defensive ceiling being raised enough to where it could manifest in a positive outcome for them. But make no mistake, this comes down to Anthony Edwards and his decision-making at the end of games with D'Angelo Russell. That, to me, is the big question. What are they going to do with D'Angelo Russell? Where does he fit in all of this? Because I mean, the way he played in the postseason last year is kind of to be expected. That's kind of his personality at this point.
And you mentioned something in passing that I think is actually a really important point. Regular season-wise, I think it's going to be successful for Minnesota, but when you in a best-of-7 series against a Clippers team that's playing 5 out, and they're just going to attack you with dribble penetration and kicking out to open shooters, how they handle that is going to be, I think, something that probably is going to kill them in the end. You know what I mean?
And then you think, like, that's where a Malik Beasley and a Patrick Beverley become that much more valuable. But Jared Vanderbilt was an awesome perimeter wing for them last year. Like that. I just think that those three together in a playoff series actually bring more value than Rudy Gobert. I know that sounds crazy to say, but make no mistake, they will be a better regular season team. They will finish higher in the standings, and that will be enough, I think, to justify the trade internally.
All right, Jason Timpf again, host Hoops Tonight, and tell everybody where you can find all your work, podcast, and anything else.
Yeah, so Hoops Tonight on the Volumes YouTube channel. You can also find it under our podcast feed under Hoops Tonight, and then you can follow me on Twitter at _JasonLT.
Visit VSiN.com to get current odds. Listen for free, find showtimes, and download VSiN sports betting podcasts.